So, yeah, because
red bun.
we romanticized it. Actually, we romanticized that part, and we only focused on that part, the shoes and the hip hop era and all that stuff like that, and forgot about all the other stuff. That hey, yeah, these guys selling drugs and they got their money, but who they selling to? It has to be somebody who's a consumer of that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, this is the meal with your host Warner B. Got special guest today, Carra. Carra's here to talk to me. You know how we do it on the meal. So we talk about everything. We talk about relationship counseling. We talk about addiction. Talk about self-care, mental health. We just here with family. So that's why I call it the meal. So
The
there's nothing
meal.
better than sharing a meal with good people. You know what I'm saying? And so when we're here to just talk about some real things. So Carra, what's going on? How you
Nothing
doing?
much. Thanks you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Yes, ma'am. What's on your mind? We got special hosts. We got Curtis in the back, as always. He's back in the back. He ain't being shown today, guys. We got Smokey in the cut. He got there kind of hanging out. So you hear a little chewing noise. Don't get scared. He here too as well. So what's going on, Carl? How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's been an interesting past couple years. I think everybody after COVID, it's been a lot has been, as far as the light's been shining on people trying to really kind of tune into their mental health
Right.
afterwards. I think COVID kind of made us not have an excuse to kind of look at ourselves with us having to be in solitude and being alone. So coming out has been like very eye opening.
Mm-hmm. It's different. COVID has most definitely changed how we kind of look at things, and mental health is a big thing. And the reason I think it's so prevalent is because we're seeing the effects of it. And one of the biggest things a lot of people don't know is that they've had a change in how they do mental health as far as like with the state sponsored organization. It used to be like when you went to a state place where people had mental health, they could stay there for the rest of their lives. Now they only there for a limited amount of time. And so you have more episodes of people who have severe mental health. But the one of the thing I like to talk about is like just the regular things like the depression
Right.
and anxiety, bipolar disorder, and especially like in the Black community. A lot of times I see people give misinformation. Like you hear about people going to college. And then you say, hey, somebody put something in somebody drinking, something happened to them. But what happens, I tell people a lot of times, is that the fact that bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, it presents it around that age, 20 to 21 to 22. And a lot of times in our community, we don't even talk about it. We don't even know. And so we don't know what our grandmother or what our mother had on those different sides of our family. And so what happened, that person go there, they don't even know it. And so all of a sudden, they had this episode and people think something was in their drink.
Right.
So we don't know. And so that misinformation hurts us.
And, it's unfortunate that for a long time we kind of ignored mental health, especially as Black people.
Right.
And now we're trying to get into it, but I feel like the younger generations, we're trying to take it more seriously because we want to, and it's supposed to be generationally. You're supposed to, if you, like me, I think you're supposed to break generational curses and every generation is better than the next. But now it's like, okay, so if we're doing better, and what about the generations behind us? How can we do something? What can we do to turn back and say, okay, well, I'm projecting myself forward, but that doesn't mean I'm leaving you behind emotionally, mentally, with your well-being. Let's bring you forward too and get you healthy and healed. Because no matter what age you are, you can still enjoy good mental health. That's the most vital thing as far as going forward and living your life, no matter what age you are. So, I think about my grandmother all the time. My great grandmother, my mom's side. She died at 104. Shout out to Mama Shane. I hope I can live that long.
Yeah.
But I remember at 96, first of all, I spent a lot of time with her. And she was one of those women that, Big Mama was the one. She do say something. She ain't gonna say much, but she do say something. You better pay attention. So at 96, she was like, hey, I want you to remember something if you don't ever remember anything else. And it's funny because she would always say, hey, every year since I was a kid, I might not be here next year. So remember this. She played too much because she lived till I was 30.
Wow.
But she was like, hey, in all seriousness, like, you got to understand that, and no matter what age you are, you don't stop learning. She was like, I'm 96. I still learn something new every day.
Wow.
And so, hearing her say that, and, this is nothing that my mother didn't tell me, nothing that she didn't try to. I was blessed to have a mom that tried to get me to be more self-aware, and that, I was out with her a lot, dealing with her, speaking at different venues with in regards to mental health, actually.
Okay.
And so having her and then seeing the example, I'm like, okay, so basically I feel like I'm looking at what a possibility could be for me. I can have that peace as an adult,
Right.
all the way up until I get ready to go. I don't have to be miserable,
Right.
and that continue on. And I feel like a lot of people aren't raised with that same awareness. They aren't raised to be able to be empathetic towards other people, and including themselves.
Right.
That's something that you got to be taught. So I'm actually really excited when it comes to talking about mental health. For me personally, it was me remembering all the good things. We were just kind of briefly talking about repressed memories before we got on camera and we started talking. And I think some things can be horrible, and then there's also things that we repress that can be good too and beneficial. So we got to pull it all out. If you're gonna make yourself better, you got to clean up the closet and get it all out. And that's the thing.
Well, it helps you get through. I think we have good and bad things that help you. It helps you get through. And one of the way you kind of deal with like bad things is you plant good things. I always tell people, like, there's a Bible verse about this guy that came in and he planted this guy had wheat. And the guy came in and his enemy, the Bible says his enemy came in and he planted these tares at nighttime. Tares is kind of like a weed.
Right.
And he said, what are you going to do with them? He said, man, do we want to tear up the tares? He said, no, we tear up you pull up all the tares, you're going to mess the wheat up as well.
Right.
So what you do, you plant some more wheat, you plant some more good stuff in there. And then when you pull it up, you separate them. So that's what you do. Sometimes when you have a lot of bad things, you plant the good things as well so that you can have those there too to kind of counteract them. And so you need those. You need the good things and the bad things.
You got to use the happiness to fill in the gaps. You know what I mean?
And that kind of pulls you out. And a lot of times what's great about a lot of times is that we survivors. And so we look at those things, the resilience that we've had in the past, look at those things and, hey, did you survive that? What happened? What did y'all do?
I like that because it's easy to drown yourself in all your shortcomings, all the mistakes you made. But, like I said before, you have to be able to be empathetic towards yourself. That's the first person you got to be able to be empathetic. So you got to forgive yourself for, hey, I ain't know I was ignorant.
Right.
You know what I mean? And my uncle likes to talk about the word ignorant all the time because we grew up thinking, oh, man, that means that's an insult. You're stupid. No, you didn't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what the Bible says about be not ignorant. What it means is that you lack an understanding. You need understanding. You need to have understanding so you can go. So what it means, it's not saying be ignorant and be ignorant. It's no, get you some understanding. Understand, learn. Go get up on a person that knows. Get up on a person who experienced something. Like me and Curtis always talk about that. Hey, I tell guys that be in addiction. I was like, you need to be up in it with somebody who's dealing with the same thing. They come in, they're like, well, I can't get no job. I said, well, go to a person. When you go to an AA meeting, there's somebody there who's your age, who didn't have a job, and this is what he did. Find out what he did with his addiction, with him not having a driver license, or him having a record. What did he do? Right. I'm saying you find this person that's doing the same thing. It's a guy in there who's 60 years old who went through the same thing. It's a guy who's 20. You know what I'm saying? Find those people who are doing those things you want to do and then mimic them. How did you get through it? That's why support groups, I think that is so important. So if I got a pregnancy support group, if I have a support group for men who have mental addiction or pornography addiction, I can go in there and this is what they did. And I might not use all those tools, but I can use some of those tools.
Right.
And you find those tools and you use them, but me complaining about it is not helping. So therapy a lot of time is just tools. And what I do as a therapist is I go in and I give you these tools. You know what I'm saying? I always tell people, I kind of give them an example of like leading up, you have this terrible lawn in your house and your lawn is really bad. And you complain about your lawn all the time. My lawn is so terrible, the weeds are taking over. And I come in and I say, Carra, this is how you use your weed eater. I grew up in the country. This is how you use a bush hog. They say bush hog. This is how you use all these different tools like that. And then I come back and your lawn is still a mess. And I was like, Carra, why your lawn like that? You're like, oh, my lawn is so bad, it's so terrible. And, and I've been out here trying to use it, and you got some scissors out there cutting on your grass. And I was like, I didn't tell nothing about no scissors, Carra. What you doing there? And then all the stuff I did is getting rusty and you ain't using them because it's tools. At the end of the day, you still, no matter what I give you, I cannot make you use them. You still got to decide to use them. And a lot of times people go back to the same thing that they used to, and they get the same results, and they mad and they fussing at them.
Listen, so I'm glad you mentioned that because let me see, maybe about a decade ago, I went to therapy and Shout out to Suzanne. I don't know where she is now, but she was talking about, when I was talking about my issues, I'm telling her things that were bothering me. And she was like, hey, you're going to have to learn how to set boundaries. That's going to have to be your biggest thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Now she gave me the tools and all that. I went back into the world, and just like you said, you can give you the tools. If you don't want to use it, that's on you. That was on me. You know what I mean? I didn't take it as serious. And I think a part of that for me was, even though I had the tools, mentally and emotionally, I wasn't there enough to allow myself to say, hey, calm down. You know what you have here,
right?
And it can work,
right?
You know what I mean? Even the little bit you use it, you try to use it anyway.
Right.
It worked a little bit,
right?
But once you get so locked up into being depressed and anxious and grieving, all these other things, you forget. If I just relax, I can use these tools and it can eliminate those things.
Right.
So I really like that you brought that up, because even though there's a lot of resources that are available, like now, you got apps like BetterHelp and stuff like that, where you can do therapy from home or do it from your phone. You can do it on the train, no matter where you are. We ain't got no trains you can go on down here in Mississippi, but I'm just saying, if you're in New York, get on the subway with BetterHelp. But things like that. But also having people that are around you that, kind of like-minded. They're, as far as your mental health, they take it seriously, things like that, who are well informed. That does count, especially like the environment of going to like A meetings, stuff like that.
Right.
So,
well, the norm, what you was talking about, but what the biggest struggle is that we can be in our mental health state so long, our depression or anxiety so long. What happens? It becomes normal to us.
Yeah, it becomes a prison.
And we but we get, what happened? We get used to it. You ever see people in like an abusive relationship, and you ask them, they don't know what to do when they're not doing it. I don't know what to do. If I'm not angry anymore, I don't know nothing but anger.
That makes people so mad sometimes too, when you brought that up, because I had someone that I knew that was in an abusive situation, but in her mind, she's like, well, I don't really know anything else. So if I leave, what am I going to do being happy? People don't realize or even believe that happiness can be attainable for them.
Because especially if it's generational.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a thing where my mom and dad, this is what went on with them. And so I'm in a relationship and this is my normal.
They're like, this is all I know.
This is all they know. And so sometimes what they'll do, they'll self-sabotage. What happened, Carra, what they will do, they'll get in a relationship and they'll self-sabotage and they'll go back to that because that's all they know. And that's so hard, and that's sometimes to break down. And what a counselor does, even if I see all that and that's not what you want to deal with, we don't even deal with that part. We don't deal with the part that you want to deal with. And sometimes we can become trying to be an advocate. And so that's why you can tell the difference between therapy and something that's not therapy. Therapy is like, I'm trying to make you like me. My thing is, if I came in, I'm talking to you, I'm only going to fix what you tell me that you got it broken.
Right.
Because that's all that you're interested in. Because you might not even be interested in that part. I can see it and it can hurt me and I can be sad that you're dealing with it, but it's not, because some people, they don't want to change, and they have to be able to see it that way too.
How do you approach that?
Well, you see what they want to see. And then all I can do is say, well, Carl, I'm really concerned about that. I'm really concerned that this is going on, that's going on. I know that you might not want to address it right now, but I think we should address it in the future if you think so. But you ever thought about that? Did you know you're worthy? Did you know that you don't have to go through life with pain? That you don't have to be, this and like that? And then I kind of leave it alone because I don't want to because my job as a therapist to cause no pain.
Right.
You know what I'm saying, to do no harm. And so I don't want to harm you by even letting you know that. Because like me and Paris were talking about this before, it was like the trauma is that when you open up stuff like that, sometimes it's ugly and people don't want to do it. Because I get so caught up in normal, especially a person that's been severely traumatized, they don't know. That's like a person, I used to watch all these films like people who get out of prostitution, get out of cults. If you see it, sometimes when the person is so trapped in their mind that even when the person free them, they'll go and call, or they'll go in and get that person and they'll come and pick them back up because they don't know anything else. They so brainwashed to this that they are basically kind of like in a prison in their own mind.
I think it's important to point out that, as you mentioned, that brainwashing and programming, a lot of times we can do that to ourselves.
Oh yeah.
I feel like, I don't know where I heard this, but I heard somebody say that effective programming works because when the programmer leaves, it continues.
It still does, because your brain makes pathways.
Right.
And this is what its normal is. And when it becomes normal, it almost functions on its own. And so that's good programming that you're still in it. So it's like we deal with addiction where I work in. And sometimes when people have been in prison for a while, they come out, and we always call it, like you said, they still have that, we call it mentality. But what it is their programming. They have a
Right.
program. Same way in the military. When I was in the military, people in the military, you do these certain things all the time. And so when I first got out, we said, and I was just basic and I split. But we got up every morning at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Every morning at 4 o'clock and ran. So when I got back to school and I went back to Alcorn, I would get up in the morning and I would get up and run at 4 o'clock for a while. And then one day I overslept and I was like, man, I ain't got to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to run. I can get up whenever I want to. And then I started doing it, but I was so programmed to do it that even after that time was over, I continue to do it. And that's
Right.
and it's great when you're in some kind of organization like that, but when you get outside, that's the same way with mentality. That's why they talk about poverty mentality, ghetto mentality, all the different mentalities being around certain things. You have to kind of sometimes step out of your side and look. And so what's worried about counseling is another person that's outside of that is saying, hey, Carra, you're aware that this is what's going on, that everybody in your community does this. That's why you're doing that.
Right.
If you get outside that community, it can change. And now what a counselor does is bring you aware of it. Now you still have to decide, hey, that's fine for you, and I understand you see that, but I'm cool with this. Or
You gotta have the courage to make the step. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I had no idea the advice that Suzanne was giving me then. That now I'm 34 now.
Right.
Women don't tell their age, so I'm 34 now. Thank you.
Your age.
But I'm still young, so I'm still now I'm just now getting to the point where I was like, I think about maybe 32 would hit, like, I really do need to set those boundaries.
Yes.
I had this information for 10 years and I just left it in the closet.
It's a tool, though.
But
And so what you did, you put it in your bag. And that's what I tell people about tools is that every tool somebody gives us, you know what I'm saying? That's what I do. I go through like collecting tools.
Yeah.
Some tools I use immediately. Some tools I disregard. Some tools I put in my bag for later. And what you did, you just put it in for later and you saw it was important.
Yeah.
You put it in your thing. And so now you're using it. You know what I'm saying? And there's nothing wrong with that. That's still growth though. You know what I'm saying? If you didn't use it, it wouldn't be growth. And you saying, hey, it didn't apply then because I wasn't mentally ready to use that tool. But now I'm able to use that tool and I see sense in it. It's like budgeting. I didn't learn budgeting until forever. But guess what? When I learned budgeting, I started getting some of the credit cards out the way and I was able to get a house. You know what I'm saying? But for years, I'm talking about this 25 years. I just got a house out of 25 years. Me and my wife been married. But it took me, the technique was always the same.
Right.
But I just wasn't ready for it. Even talking to people about vehicle leaders, I wasn't ready about that. But after a while, guess what? I just picked the phone up. They couldn't eat me. You know what I'm saying? And I started, talking to them. And guess what happened? I was able to do some stuff. It blew my mind. The things that I had already did, but I was scared. And what happened is fear. Fear is like one of the biggest things. Fear, and I'm telling you, and rejection, those things, are so hard in a lot of things like that, being rejected by things. But that's all a person can do is accept it or reject it. And so really, like you're talking about yourself, learn about who you are. Learn about what makes you tick. Then you're able to do it. Same way in a relationship. If you don't know who you are, it's hard to have another relationship with somebody else. A lot of times people get in relationships and they don't even know. And so what happened, I don't know who I am. When I get in a relationship, now my identity is who you are, who we are. So just our partnership. And so guess what happened is the partnership break up. I don't know who I am.
Now you don't know what to do.
And then you don't know who you are again, right? You know what I'm saying? But I know who I am. I know that I'm a separate person. I'm this person, but I'm also this person, this thing together when we're together. And so something happened, I'm still this person. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's what happened a lot of times is learning who you are. And a lot of times people don't know.
And learning who you are and realizing that who I am is enough. Like I don't.
Right. And I can grow.
Yeah, I can grow.
And I can change, but I had that choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had that choice on how, if I want to grow or not. You know what I'm saying? And some people don't. And you also can't be mad at people because they don't want to grow. You know what I'm saying? That's one of the things, like I said, when a person's doing all, he talk to people about stuff like that. But some people just like, hey, I'm fine who I am.
And you know what? That's okay.
You can't get mad at that because but then what happened is that you're through growing. And that's okay as well. But if I want to keep growing, I can keep learning and I keep doing. And I always give examples like, we're the only thing that exists that don't grow to our full potential. If a tree is outside or animal or like a lion or something like that, based on its food and its environment, it'll get as big as it can. It's going to grow as much as it can based on its nutrition, stuff like that.
Listen, those roots will bust through some concrete if they need to.
They will go. If it's some water by it, they will get
it. Will get to it.
Yeah, but we'll limit ourselves. We'll say, hey, this is as much as I'm going. This is how I am. And that's what you're going to be. But you say, hey, I want to keep growing. Carra say, hey, I want to be this and I want to be that. You can keep on growing. You can be 80 years old and go to school and be a doctor if you want to be a doctor. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I don't know if I'm going to let you have surgery at 80. You know what I'm saying? But,
Right. I'm like, I don't know.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
You got some shaking hands with that scalpel at 80. I don't know about that.
Because I know how my eyes are right now. You know what I'm saying? But, but that's what I'm saying. So we limit ourselves when we don't. And that's why what mental health does. It just, you learn about yourself in that area that you don't have to deal with that same stuff all the time.
Right.
You learn, and all you're doing is learning tools. But every day when we talk about tools, you still got to pick them up. Depression is like digging holes. I always tell people, depression is like digging holes. You dig a deeper and deeper and deeper hole. And one of the ways you get out of depression is that you have to have somebody to help you a lot of times. You know what I'm saying? Get out of that hole and somebody reaches out there and help you. And I always get an example of like digging a grave. When I had to dig this grave for my one of my was my wife's uncle. That's the only time I ever done something like that. But I'm 6 feet tall. Like saying, the grave had to be like 9 feet tall. So when I was digging that hole, once I got down into the end of it, somebody had to reach in and get me out of it. And that's how depression is. The only way I was going to get out, somebody had to help me out of it. And it's the same way with depression. Sometimes you got to help you out. And one of the ways you get out is you help other people. So one of the best cures with depression is go out and start serving people.
I honestly feel like that was my greatest tool. Like, I've always been that person anyway, my whole life. And I'm just a person that serves. Like that's my thing. That was kind of a thing. My mom was that person. We was always together doing it. A lot of women in my family are that way. So, and then personally, I have great relationships with a lot of people that when I was in a situation, I felt like I wasn't good enough. And, they were like, hey, man, I actually really love you and you're really great. And, don't you remember when you did this for me? And I'm like, well, actually, no, I didn't. But I had no idea it was that good. So that definitely counts, like having somebody there for you. And then once I realized, I actually do have people that really like me and that, I'm not a bad person. I was like, I gave myself some grace after a while. But that's, you have to practice that thing. It's a kind of repetition. You practice, I feel, in a way. Like I use practice for lack of a better word. But repetition as far as when you listen to the bad things, when you in your mind repeat those bad things over and over and over again, that repetition, you kind of program yourself to be stuck. And of course, people who have bigger mental health issues, they're like, not to say depression and anxiety is not big, but say people that have, things like bipolar disorder, stuff like that, that can be a little different. But if it's something like this, for me, it was, okay, so I learned this behavior. What if I just decide to say positive things to myself? And repetitively mean it, and they say fake it till you make it. I spend a lot of time looking in the mirror, hey, you are worthy, girl. You are worthy. You're beautiful. You're probably the flyest person I know. You can do it. Don't you remember when you did this? Doing a lot of that. And then, anytime I had a negative thought, it was something I saw that said, within 17 seconds, if you have a negative thought, you can turn it around and make it something positive. It can have a greater impact than if you wait and let that thought go ahead and carry on. Because after that 17 seconds, it's just gonna do what it do.
It makes room.
So and I was like, what? 17 seconds? It honestly made a big impact. It's the small things you practice like that for me.
Well, that's a good thing. Positive things and affirmation and all of those are all tools. Those are all tools you can use. Because every thought is, you don't have to it's like if a person come in my house, that's what I always give an example. A person come in your house and they just tell you they finna come in there and I'm finna come in here and live here. This is your house. Carra, this is my house. They come in your house. You like, no, that's not your house. How did you get in here? First you're gonna make sure how you got in here. Then they like, well, this is my house. It's my family always at this house and everything like that. You know what you're gonna ask them? What proof you got to show me?
I
need some information. Then I need you to bring somebody else with some authority in here to make me do this house. You're not just finna come, but we do it with our thoughts. We like these thoughts come in our head that has no right to be there. So we call it putting your thought on trial. Put that thought on trial. Do you have evidence? Well, you'll never be nothing. Do I have evidence? Have I lived my whole life? You know what I'm saying? Well, you know what I'm saying? You ain't never nothing because your dad ain't nothing. Well, my dad didn't have nothing. Did he ever have nothing? I don't know what my dad had. I don't know anything about what he had. I'm not in his head. So you put those thoughts, and if you don't have anything, then guess what? You don't get to stay here. Sir, you got to leave out of my house. I'm finna put you out of here. I'm put you out here forcefully.
I'm throwing you out Fresh Prince style in my house.
You finna jump out like Jazz. Because you don't. And so that's what we have to learn is that, and what happened, people just let people, okay, come on in. And you just kind of willy-nilly let these thoughts come in my head and let them stay there. And sometimes you got to challenge yourself. You have to really get up and you have the thought, we call it thought challenge. So is it a real thought? Is it rational? Is it irrational? Does that thought have evidence? Will those things hold up in court? So you got to put it on trial. And if they're not, then they don't get to stay there.
Period.
The same way if a person
I wish they had a gavel.
You have to, you cannot stay there. And so you learn those things, like say when you go to therapy, because or because that's what you need. You know, you need those things, and you need to learn about, and same with anxiety. Anxiety is fear or something that hasn't happened. We all have it, and anxiety is made for us to protect ourselves. It's called it's a flight or flight thing. So anxiety is made like if I got to fend for my life, I got to get myself, so my heart races and my hands get tight and all that stuff like that. But I'm like that 24/7, something is wrong. It's like a car. Like I told her, you can get a car and it can be a fast car, but if you drive it fast 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it's going to blow a gasket.
Right.
So the same way if I'm anxious like that all the time, or if I'm angry all the time, eventually I'm going to have a heart attack, I'm going to have a stroke, I'm going to have something because I'm always like that. So I got to deal with it. You know what I'm saying? A lot of time anxiety is because, people have a lack of control. Like something happens, I want to be able to control.
Yeah, for me, it was the fear of uncertainty, like people got FOMO, like that's kind of like negative FOMO for me. I don't know what's going to happen, so I'm worried about it.
So did you get past it or you dealt with it?
Yeah. That was another thing that was like, for me, everything is spiritual. So I was just like, okay, well, if I'm worrying this hard,
right,
where does that leave my faith? You know what I mean?
That's a good thing. Faith is a big thing. Yeah, that is most definitely true. So where is it at? You know what I'm saying? That's why I tell people, hey, where is it at? Because you have to, and that's why it's so good when people who have that. That's good. And some people, and me, I'm a person of faith, but some people don't. And so as a counselor, I have to work with people who don't have it. You know what I'm saying? So they got to have some kind of reason to do it. And so you need a reason why. That's why I ask people, I say, what do you believe in? How do you deal with that situation? Because I got to have some kind of structure to deal with this problem.
Right.
So I need structure. And if I don't know it, that's when you kind of go and you learn it. Or you talk to somebody who has it. And I'm not saying that counseling is the end all, is the end all to everything. Sometimes you just got to talk to people who've been there, who've got some wisdom, people who survived. Somebody who's been, older, who's been there for who fit this. And that's what I used to do. I used to sit around older people and I would just sit there and just listen to them. 3rd grade education, 4th grade education, but guess what? They have been somewhere. They have lived somewhere. They survived some things. What do you do? And then same way, guess what I do? I listen to the information. If it's good, add it to my toolbox. If it's bad, I discard it. Now, I'm always going to be respectful. I ain't going to tell them I'm disregarding, but right. And you add it to their tools because guess what? They'll survive. They've lived. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to live too. And so if they survive, hey, man, how did you deal with this? If you're in a married couple, I want to talk to some people who happily married. Now, I don't want to be in no people who ain't happily married. I want to talk to some people who happily married and they've been together for 25, 35 years.
Right.
What did you do? You know what I'm saying? Hey, I listen, man. I'm going to listen.
And not that y'all was married that long, but y'all happily married.
Happily married that long. And if you weren't happily married.
If you was a prisoner, I don't want your advice.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's what I tell people. Because I tell people like my first 3 years marriage was the toughest for me because what happened, me and my wife, is that for the first 3 years, I was trying to make her me. She was trying to make me her. That's what I told her. I think I told them that when we was in therapy. And so that was my biggest thing. And so what happened, I stopped trying to make her me. I just want her to be a little version of me.
Oh, Lord, you ain't lying, though, because that was definitely the first year of marriage for me. I'm going on year 2 now. Okay? Yeah. The first year is all like, okay, I don't know. I mean, I love you, but the way you're doing things, you get down to the little nitpicky things, and you're like, I don't know. Like, for example, I don't like how you wax on when you always wax off too soon. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but a little bit different,
but when you get down to, like, accepting that, okay, first of all, I don't even really like the way I do everything. So how can I expect this person
that is so rare. That is so
to do this just as well? I don't even have a real standard for myself. I'm probably going to change this.
Right.
I'm going to evolve constantly.
Right.
That's just my choice. So I can't expect you to be exactly like me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Quarterback. You just looking at it and trying to find fault. And that's what happens. Because what happened is that couples meet up because they like each other and they attract each other. But then we're all just a combination of our experience.
Right.
I lived experiences. So if my mom and dad did things like this and your dad and mom did things like this is your experience. This is how I looked at relationship. This is how I looked at problem solving. This is how I looked at leadership or whatever like that. Is different. Right. So if I grew up in a house and my dad washed all the dishes and my dad did the inside work because my mom had this other job, then that's how I think that a man's supposed to be. If I grew up in a house and my mom did all that stuff, then I think this is how I. And guess what? We get together and we got a total different ways to do it. I grew up, my mom and dad had separate bank accounts. I think that's how it's supposed to be. I grew up in they shared everything. So we together, as that experience comes out, and we don't talk about it. We just like how each other look, and we like that part, and then we never deal with that part. And so guess what? After a while, after about the first, second year of marriage, guess what? I don't care about you cute. I don't care that you fine. I don't care nothing about that. All I know is that I want some food and you ain't cooking, and I think you supposed to cook, and my mom cooked.
If she
You supposed to cook.
if she wasn't cooking
Yeah.
when y'all was dating anyway, she ain't cooking about year 3 of marriage. A lot of people do, in all seriousness.
They blind.
They think that if you get with a person and you marry them, that's gonna be the thing that changes their person into what you want. That's not true.
It's romanticized.
That is not true, y'all.
Yeah, and that's, I think, because people be on their best behavior, and that's what a lot of times we don't. People get in love, they fall in love with those the romanticized idea of it, but they don't do it. And a lot of times they don't understand that those things change, and so you change, and then also you're gonna change by the time y'all get to really know each other. By year 4 or 5,
you changed it already.
You can change it. And then guess what? You got to change with that person. But the thing that's the center is that how you care about each other. That's why I always tell people when I do counselings, I say, what, I always tell them, give me their Genesis story, the story when they started together.
Right. Okay,
this is the story. And then and I don't care how mad they are with each other. When they tell that story, you can still smile. Because that's that part about it. I said, that's the thing we looking for. That's the thing we're reaching after, is that thing right there. That's the part. And the Bible talks about the story about a pearl of great price, and this man who sells a field he found this treasure. And I said, that's the treasure. I said, but if you look at a field, this is in you ever go in the country? I grew up in the country. So in the field, there's all kind of stuff in the country. People don't realize there are roaches in the field.
Listen.
I remember when I said, I told my dad, I said, Dad, he's like, son, that's where they come from. They don't come from no house. They live in the field.
Listen,
but it's rats
and sure do.
and holes and all kind of stuff like that. But that's a field. But when he bought the field, he got all that. But the treasure is the thing you look at. I used to tell my wife when we used to get upset, I said, hey, don't look at my field, baby. Look at my treasure. Look at my treasure.
Right.
And we get to arguing, because that's the thing that holds you there, and everything else can come out of that. And so that's the part you work on, because guess what? We got these shared experiences. We got these different experiences, and then we understand each other. We understand that, hey, you have a tendency to do that. That's what we're talking about, knowing a person. When you know them, you know they different ups and downs. But I choose to care and look at the thing that I like the most. And that's why a lot of couples don't do it, because it's work. People don't want to work. They don't want to do that.
Listen, nobody does want to work. And it's so funny, because dating when I was younger, I was like, I would consider myself what we call sapiosexual. That's millennials. I know that we brought that out.
Okay.
But for those that don't know what sapiosexual is, you're attracted to a person's mind.
Wow, that's cool. I've heard that before.
So I was always the one that dated for that particular thing.
You Purtis, you kin him?
Huh?
That's something sound like he'd be saying something like.
Yeah, I'm definitely his niece. I'm just gonna say.
Go ahead again. Okay.
We like big words sometimes. Okay,
sapiosexual.
But yeah, sapiosexual, and you can Google it, people. It's a real thing. But definitely attracted to a person's mind.
Okay.
Any woman I ever dated, if you can't ring my bell mentally,
right,
we're not even gonna talk past 5 minutes.
Okay.
Now everybody's not like that.
Okay.
Not to say that, when you date somebody and you see somebody that, you can't be physically attracted to them. But I think that a lot of us didn't really learn to kind of lean towards, and I'm not saying everybody, that's the way you should think, but I think if everybody kind of leaned more towards what we call sapiosexuality, then we'd have less people who would be unhappy in a relationship. Because, that person can provide what you need mentally to stimulate you, and vice versa. We grew up thinking that intimacy was sex, and that's really messed up, But culturally, looking at all the programming, that's what we were taught to think.
Okay.
And then on top of that, if you look back at your own parents, or if you're around other people around you who aren't really happy in their relationships, and they might be a lot of cheating, might see influences like that, it doesn't help. So people don't think, okay, I really need to get to know, like, what kind of person is this person really mentally, emotionally? What kind of characteristics as far as like, do you, are you empathetic? Do you feel like you like to do this thing? How do you handle being sad? How do you handle this? Things like that. We weren't really taught to kind of ask. I feel like I'm proud of Gen Z, because even though everybody gives them crap, Gen Z has really come out and been like, hey man, we are the generation going kick in the camera, kick the door down, flip the table over, and this is what we are, and this is what we gonna do. Like, they are kind of helping, like, I feel like Gen X and millennials, especially older millennials, kind of realize, hey, we do need to kind of like each other before we get married. Like, we need to know if this person has any kind of spiritual beliefs. Like, we do need to know if they want to have kids, and if they feel like they're capable of even raising a child. What kind of traumas do you have other than the old school stuff? Okay, well, what'd you like to eat? You know, what's your favorite color?
Right.
You know, do you have any friends? Those kind of questions.
But they're different generations, and they have different characteristics that make them great. And so they really had the time. And so we talk about this in counseling, is like the hierarchy of needs. And one of the top parts of the needs is then you get to be able to do those things that you're saying. And so as the world has evolved, you know, that's what birthed the millennials being able to have that time to kind of be emotionally, to be able to, you know, and we learning later, especially in the South, about how important it is to know all that stuff. And really even like premarital counseling and knowing those things that, hey, this is how I look at finances, this is how I look at spirituality, this is how, because these things matter. It's not all about compatibility as far as, you know, physical compatibility. And a lot of times people don't know what the word intimacy means. Intimacy is closeness, but it also means different things to different people. That's why you're learning your love languages and all that stuff like that. But to me, intimacy might mean one thing and to you is something else. But since we're a couple, I learn your language. And what I tell couples about stuff like that is that when I remember me and my wife, we went on this mission trip to Haiti. And what happened, if you go anywhere in a foreign country and the people like you, once they like you, what they do, they teach you their language because they want you to speak their language. That's beautiful to them. But they don't even care if you're messing it up. So in a couple is that I need to know your language of love, what it means intimacy to you. And so what happened is that I speak your language and you speak mine. And the only way you're going to learn my language is if I teach it to you. So my job is to teach you my language, and your job is to teach me your language. And then I give you, because what happened, we have a tendency to love people how we like want to be loved. Because I'm a person that like physical touch, then I go physical to touch you, and I think that you like that. You like, no, I like it's a service.
That's hilarious.
Service. I like this thing. That's what we do.
That's what I think in the beginning of my marriage, even before we got married, it was a transitional period. We had to kind of understand, take time to better understand each other's love language, because I'm very much such a cuddle bear. I'm the person like, hey, let me touch your hand. I'm Pepe Le Pew. Okay, you remember Pepe Le Pew? He would kiss all the way up arm. You know, that's me. You know, I'm like, yeah, I get that from my mama. She was definitely.
She's a touchy feely.
She was definitely touchy feely. We gonna hug. We gonna kiss. And my wife is like, girl, if you don't stop touching me, she is complete opposite. She's like, I just want to hear you say I love you.
Right. That's
and you know,
affirmation. That's like a word.
You know what I mean? Right. Words of affirmations, pretty heavy. You know, acts of service, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But other than that, do not touch me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because she might not have been used to touch. She might not have been.
Not at all.
That was not in their family. And so
I thought it was weird because, you know, I'm Southern. So down here, you go to somebody's auntie house, everybody in the house gonna hug you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But if that's not normal in my house, and see, that's what happened. We want our normal to be somebody else's normal. And then we're kind of put off by that. We're like, what? Hey, what are you talking about? What's wrong with me?
Yeah, I thought that was weird. I'm going there to
because we
family and ain't nobody talking about they love you, ain't nobody hug, you know.
And that same family, that mama you get to talk to, she works 20 hours a week.
Right.
Take care of them. That's her love language. She does it by her works. You know what I'm saying? And so that's how she show you love. And you ask them, they be like, Mama, you never told me you love you. Boy, didn't I work 20 hours?
Listen, we can talk all night about that because
you know,
there's a lot of examples of that I've been seeing lately.
But it's real. And that's what happened is that we talk about that understanding, is that wisdom. And so what happened, we had to sit out and we had to try to say, hey, I'm going to try to understand you, then I can be understood. So it's about perceiving perception. Once I understand this is how that person is, then I know them better. And it's like, hey, okay, they do love me. They just that's not their normal. They don't know anything about that.
Right.
And so they did it because they care, you know, not because it's different. And that's what happened with relationships. People don't know that. And so they only see that first part and they have all these things because they really don't know that person.
Right.
When I get to know you, and the reason why is because guess what? We work so long. We work all these hours. We get all work. The last thing a person want to do is discuss why I do this, why I'm like this, why I did with this somebody as far as emotion and how I feel about connection and all that stuff like that. And that's what happens is that work starts not to work. And what happened is that we just kind of slowly start moving toward the door. Because we don't talk. But once I understand you, I can know. And then guess what? When I really know you, I can tell somebody else, well, your mama love you, baby. She work all the time. You know, her mama wasn't like that. So it's a little different for her. She love you. I promise she do. You know what I'm saying? And she might tell you. But it's different. And once you kind of understand that, then you'll become better. And it's your job is not to turn your spouse into you. It's just to understand them.
Right.
And then when they do it, it means a lot. Like my son, my youngest son, like I said, I love my baby. He loves his dad, but he just cheap. My son cheap. And so one time, I think for my birthday or something, he bought me something. He spent like $100 on me. That was like $1 million. I said, boy, I said, you love your daddy because you is cheap. I said, if you spend $100 on your dad, boy, you love your dad. I said, you love your dad, don't you? I said, because but I know him, knowing him that he's tight with his money, for him to spend that kind of money on his dad, he loved me. You know what I'm saying? Because I know him. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes you have to know that people, just like for me to go somewhere and sit out of the game, I don't like being outside like that. I like, I'm doing something, it's fine. Sit up at a football game, basketball game, in the heat and sweat and stuff like that, in my church shoes and my long shirt.
It ain't worth it.
But if my kids know that, I say, hey, Dad, I love you, man. I'm sitting here watching this game for 2 hours.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, Dad, I did. They glad to see me because see, that's knowing a person. A lot of times we don't seek to know that person. We just kind of want them to be because we selfish. We selfish. We just want you to do what I want you to take these kisses up your arm, girl. Do it. You take them. You know what I'm saying? This is what I want to give you. But understanding, hey, I understand that. And then when she does do that, or she allows you know that that's a lot because it's something that's different for them. You know what I'm saying? And that's that part about getting to know each other. But it takes time. You know what I'm saying? To really get to know a person. But when you really know a person, you can tell somebody else about it.
Yeah, you have to. Now, my mom would say, if you want to be a friend, you have to show yourself friendly.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that comes from some Bible verse. I don't remember what it was, but that in itself, that advice, I think that rings true when it comes to business, comes to relationships.
Yeah.
If you want to be the best wife, you gotta kind of.
Yeah.
You got to give some effort, and then you got to be able to receive criticism. You got to be able to listen. Marriage is not for the faint of heart, but it shouldn't be scary. Like, I don't want to, give people that misunderstanding.
Right.
Not at all, because I love it. I think it is. It's work.
Tough, but it's work.
Anything that is important to you has to be work.
It's work. You think about anything you made that you wanted in life, it's work. And I was talking to a couple about that today. If you want to do something and you want it to be good, you got to put in work to do it. You know what I'm saying? It's like a person said they want to lose 100 pounds, then it's work, right? If I tell you, okay, you need to change your diet, you make these changes in order to get this goal, but you got to see value in that goal. If you don't see no value in it, then you're like, no, I'm not going to do it. And like if I tell you, I said, Carra, I'm going to give you $100,000, but I need you to grow your hair down your back. You're like, well, I like my hair like this. This is who I am. This is my identity. I want my hair like that. That's fine. Now, if you see more value in $100,000, you're going to like, well, shoot, I'm going to grow my hair. I know this, but it's all based on your value. But if your values is based on your hair, like I told somebody, you might have took a vow that you'll never grow your hair. And your spiritual belief and your conviction is more important than that money, then it's nothing to you. If you see value in something. So if I see value in my marriage or value in my relationship, I'm willing to make these changes in order to make it work. Right. It might be difficult. It might be hard sometimes. When I say I love you, it might be like a robot. I love you, Carra. I mean it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I'm working on, I'm trying. You know what I'm saying? So eventually it'd be like, oh, God, I love you. And then after a while, I'm like, okay, I said it 3 times now, because it's different. It's not normal to me. But since I care about you, I can work on that hard. I can do those hard things to make it work. And then it works. And eventually I get better because I know I care about you more than I care about being uncomfortable. Right. You know what I'm saying? As long as it doesn't put me in a bad situation. And that's what the thing about being a couple is. I give up part of myself to become one with you. You give a part of yourself to become one with me. So you give a part of yourself. So it's a partnership. So if me and Curtis are in a partnership in this thing like that, I give up being a sole proprietor in order to share. Right. So guess what? Instead of me making $1 million a year, I can only make 500,000. I give up part of that to be in this partnership. You know what I'm saying? Because I believe in something that's bigger than that. You know what I'm saying? The same way with a relationship. I give up that. I'm forsaking all the other people in the world because I think this person is more important. You know what I'm saying? And then you have to remember that. And that's what happened a lot of times, that people don't know the work yet. They in love with the whole marriage thing or the couple thing. They don't really, or the romance, or the idea. I know personally, this one girl told me, she's like, I'm literally just dating you just because I like the idea. And once we realized that, we was over, thank God. Wow. Yeah. But I found that interesting because I was like, for one, I never thought about that as a possibility. Yeah. When it came to looking for a partner. Yeah. So I was like, people really date and marry people. I have a friend that, recently got a divorce. And afterwards she was like, girl, I literally just fell into the trap of thinking about what we could have down the line with this person. And I'm like, we 34 years old and you already divorced from this person? And based on that and she was like, man, looking at my parents, she was like, my mother only ever married for what she thought that person can do from her, and that's like, in a way, those kind of patterns are a generational trauma. Because at the end of the day, I say it's a trauma because it didn't help you and then it ends up hurting you in the long run. Well, you saw it. That's one of the things is what you see. And that's why it's so important in the life we live, in front of our kids, what they see, because you're going to do what you see. It don't matter if it's good or bad. If I see this thing and I see this, when I used to work in the school system as a teacher assistant for 1 year, we were so terrible. It was the hardest job I ever did in my whole life. Tell you the school it was
You
so,
made it, and I'm proud of you because I couldn't.
so terrible. I'm telling you, it was so terrible. But what happened, we had these kids and it was so bad with their behavior. And what happened is that sometimes their parents would come to school. And then I was like, oh, now I understand.
That makes sense.
Now it makes sense when I see their parents, and now I understand why this, why they act the way they act. They only act, the kids just a small version of their parents.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's why they act like that. And so we have we have such an important role when we're in that age, taking care of our kids, because we can help them or we can harm them. It's the same way how we deal with how they communicate, how we deal with relationship. And I know that's a lot on the parent, but it's a big role. It's a big role because what we see is we just a product of that. We're a product of our environment, our lived experience, our shared experience, and that's what happened. And so that's what, when we're in a relationship with somebody, we bring all of that stuff there, good or bad. And sometimes people, when you with somebody you like, that's not normal, right? That people. I had to tell my kids, I was like, that this is how it is. I was telling my daughter one time, I was like, you see how it is peaceful at your house. I said, don't ever forget this. When you're ever in a relationship and you're not at peace, remember that you don't have to live like that. You know what I'm saying? Because I grew up in a house before my mom and dad got divorced that was not peaceful all the time. You know what I'm saying? And so when mom got divorced, I was like, man, this can be like this. You know what I'm saying? Because it was fussing and fighting. So guess what? We had fussing and fighting. You know what I'm saying? So when I got married, it was different. And then also, when my mom and dad got divorced, I didn't realize that either until like me and my wife, we first got married, whenever we go get to argue, first thing I said, well, we just get a divorce then. And she's like, that every time we get in an argument, you say that, don't you? And I was like, for real? I was like, oh. And then I stopped saying it because I didn't know. But even though I wanted my mom and dad to get divorced, I was happy that they got divorced, it still did something to me. I didn't even realize that it still was traumatic. You know what I'm saying? So I would bring it up, but until my wife gave me recognition of that, I didn't realize that I would do that every time. That was my escape. So if things don't work out, get a divorce. She's like, we ain't get no divorce, boy. Just go there and let's talk
You
about
better
this.
go in that room and I'll see you in 10 minutes.
Yes. And she said, hey, when we made up a thing that, hey, you can sit on your side of the bed. We said we're never going to sit on the couch. We're not going to never leave. We're going to sit there and work it out. Even if we mad. And sometimes I'd be like about to fall off the bed. She'd be on the other side about to fall off the bed. But we'll still be in the bed, though. You know what I'm saying? Because guess what? About 2 or 3 in the morning, I'm going to touch a toe. And we'll be all right. You know what I'm saying?
She just wants you to touch her anyway.
Yeah,
So,
you know what I'm saying? So, but it's a process, though. And I'll tell you about something, it can be great if you want it to be. It's work, though. And a lot of times we just don't want to work. We just don't want to work on that. Now, so that's how marriage is just, it just changed. But counseling can help you do it because sometimes, guess what? I can know all that information. I can tell you all the information. I don't want to hear from nobody else. But sometimes it take that third party coming in and saying, hey, from an unbiased point,
right,
saying, hey, this is what's going on. This is what I see. And then you still get to make that choice. And that's why it's good to go in somewhere, if you don't do regular counseling, premarital or postmarital counseling, and kind of get in there and talk about it, especially if you're having some issues. You know what I'm saying? Because what happened, a lot of times we get frozen. We call it polarization. Polarize on this certain thing, you polarize on that certain thing. But when you froze, you can't go nowhere.
Right.
And you can't have a winning team like that. And so if you're a couple, guess what? It's a team. You know what I'm saying? So we can't win if one of us, because we're like, yeah, you win an argument, but the war, you lost the whole war.
Yeah, that's how I am. I'm like, first of all, I don't like to argue, which I find that can be kind of counterproductive. Like, not the fact that you want to argue, it's just, my personality is like, hey, man, listen, I don't even want to have this hard conversation, but I'm learning to have the harder conversations now. Like, you can, Shaq and Kobe didn't win without being able to work together. So, you know what I mean? I want to have a dynasty.
It don't matter how great you are by yourself. Shaq was great by himself, Kobe great by himself, but they're not winning no team. They're not no championship like that. Same way with a couple. You can be great and know all the answers. You can maybe argue better than me. You might have a lot more things, but you still lost because we're a team. You know what I'm saying? But we good, then guess what? Then we know what both of us got going on, and we can understand each other, and we can win.
It's like, do you want to be right, or I want to be right, or are we going to sit here and find the truth?
Yeah, are we going to be right? You know what I'm saying? Are we going to understand each other?
You're right. Are we going to be right as a team?
Because it's a we. We forget that. We forget that. We think it's individual. Yeah, you're individual, but we give up part of that individuality to be something together. Or else and that's what happened when people don't, then you right, but you right over there, and I'm right over there. You know what I'm saying?
And at that point, what's the point?
There's no point. It's no togetherness, and that's that loss that we have. And then you wonder why people together and they're taking all these pictures, but they don't even like each other.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Now what happened? We got stuff together, and I was like, "Do you want?" That's what I asked people. And when I tell you, the biggest thing I have with couples is that they're not friends. I was like, when you stop being friends, and that's the biggest thing. When you stop being friends, a lot of that go out the door. You know what I'm saying? Because all that other stuff, it fades up and down. But that friendship and that relationship we have, that camaraderie, that thing that we share, that's what keeps us. That's that thing that's in the middle. That's that center.
Right.
That's that pearl, the pearl of great price. That's that thing, that's that treasure in the field. It's that thing that we have that's together. And that's the thing you fight for. You know, that initial thing. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So all the other stuff is just distractions. It's just distractions. You know, it don't even matter. So anyway, before we get off here, me and Purtis, I said whenever we come in, we always talk about, because Purtis is doing this thing called the crack years. It's a big thing, and I know that's a deviation from what all we talking about, because it's really interesting.
It's really not though.
It is so cool. It is so cool, because what happened is that one thing I was telling Purtis about is that, you know, when we was talking about is that the biggest thing, I think it coincided with those years with the emerging of hip hop and rap and stuff like that. And we was talking about repressed memories on here, like I think last week. And then a lot of times when that was going on, we forgot. So where were you at? You know where you were at during that time? Then do you remember what you?
Well, I was born in '90s, so
were you? But in it or not? Were you?
I don't know if you would consider me in it or not, but I feel like I still saw the effects of it, and the way I saw the effects is, I'm gonna keep it real. Okay, so most of my uncles, they were all in the game. You know what I mean?
Hey, correction.
Not all of them.
Let's make sure we're in the right game.
But I feel like seeing how they were affected, that trickled down into my relationships with them. And this was wild. The other night I was talking to my wife, and I was like, and I was playing with the dog, and I was like, yeah, you know, your daddy taught me how to fight. And I thought about it. My uncle was talking about how we had a conversation. We were talking about how certain things that affected him or affected the family, and you know, all these generations of people. You know, we do certain things, like we were talking about the burglar bars. We do certain things, and we don't know why they're done. And I was like, just him even telling me how to protect myself probably came from him seeing what was happening to people and him not wanting it to happen to me. Wow. You know what I mean? Yeah. So something so small like that, because I'm thinking, when I see my uncle, every time I see him, I would have to slap box him. You know what I mean? If I couldn't beat him, then, you know, I'm thinking it's a game, you know, and then I grow up, I'm like, well, I actually can defend myself. Not that I want to have to do that, but I can. Yeah. And I'm not even realizing, even at the point where, you know, when he was dealing with battles and stuff, so his, I'm tongue-tied, with his sobriety, he still had the love enough to recognize, hey, I still got to teach her something, you know, and this is the way I'm going to do it. Right. So it's stuff like that, you know, you wouldn't think. This has happened to do with this, because it was some kind of trauma that he might have faced, and he was worried about me. You know, he ain't got no kids. I'm an honorary child. You know, I was always with Unc. But so it's like, who else is he going to teach it to? You know what I mean?
Right. But even the need to do it, you're right. That's that feeling of protection and all that thing, because there was so much going on at that time. It was a lot going on at that time. And
then randomly, I know there would be times, and I was talking to my uncle about this the other day, because at that point when I was a kid, I didn't know what was happening. That I'd be like, sometimes I'd be randomly getting in the car with grandma, and she would just go pick up, you know, one of our family members who might have been like out on the streets or doing something like that. And I'm like, I'm not knowing why we're going to pick up Uncle so-and-so or cousin so-and-so. I had no idea they were on drugs, you know? Right. And then, you know, when you're a kid in the 90s, especially, you know, kids, you know, you can tell them the truth, but you don't tell them the whole truth. Right. And I'm learning that too, as being like a stepmom now. But she'd be like, well, they were drunk. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm thinking alcoholism run the family. Who knew there was like so many people that are affected by drugs? Yes. But I mean, it could be, it's so many things. Like, since we've been talking about this topic, I'm thinking about them. Like, could that have possibly been because of that? Yeah. And then you were going into the glorification of it all. Yeah, most definitely. That's why nobody really talks about it, because when you asked me, what do I think about? What do I see? And I was like, well, you know, I'm thinking about Grandmaster Flash and, you know, Rakim and you know, all these rappers and stuff. And I think about like the New York projects, and because that's going to be distant to me, but it was right here. That's the backdrop, right in here. Jackson, Mississippi. Right. You know what I'm saying? It was right over there in California. It was right up there in the Midwest. It was everywhere. Yeah, it was. But we just saw that as it being synonymous with hip hop. And it was, and then we emulated what we saw.
And then it also glorified it. And also, the projects and being, because when we grew up, it was cool to be in the projects. You wanted to hang around the project. You wanted to shout out to a project, even if you weren't nowhere near that, because where did that come from? But we really was shouting out to what the gang that was going on, the drug gang. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But we kind of,
What's wrong with us?
And you know
What was wrong with us?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I thought saying help with the computer. But you look at that.
Yeah, what's wrong with us trying to shout out to the project?
We wanted to be affiliated with it. We wanted to be, and I hear guys saying, I got my education. I know from my homeboys in Meridian, my education and what? I was like, what are you talking about? RCP, Rescore Pro. Like, hey, what school is that? That's the projects. That's what they claim those projects. That's where they got their education from. And it's something where that becomes something that we are synonymous with being cool, is being from the projects, being, being out there and living out there. And then you think about halftime, the people who stayed out there couldn't even pay, the rent and stuff like that, but we climbing it like we own it. You know what I'm saying? But it's just something about that whole thing. But the thing that I keep on coming across is that it's not even the fact about the game as much as the drug game, is but the fact that those people who were using drugs to be enough for you to have that much money in your pocket, it had to be a insurmountable amount of people who were on drugs to have to buy those shoes and to buy the fitted hats and to buy the jerseys, that the throwback jerseys that we was buying at the time was really expensive. Somebody had to be giving you a lot of money. So that's somebody's mom, sister, brother, uncle, somebody. And then guess what? It was multiple drug dealers. So everybody, it was a lot bigger and a lot more widespread than we thought. Because like me and Curtis were talking about, that's when you start hearing about the gang, and it went from gang and immediately to shooting, and it wasn't about colors. It was about money. It was about money. And so, but then the weird thing, like what me and Paris talk about, is that nobody even talk about it. We don't even discuss it. It is so crazy. No one even talks about that. You know what I'm saying? And why do we repress that? Why do we have to repress that? And that is so amazing to us. You know what I'm saying? That actually changed the landscape of how we lived. And we talked to burglar bars and to pull out radios and all that. But the way we do things, the way we, with security, all that stuff like that. That's when we had to start having security at the little parties and the little clubs. Never thought about that. Before then, there wasn't no security. You just went to the little dance. Now you have to have security. Guess what? Now guys are carrying real guns. You know what I'm saying? So it's a difference. You know what I'm saying? Because you think about it, we romanticized because the drug dealer carrying beepers and pages because that was business. We was carrying it to emulate them.
Right.
Ain't get no calls on there. Mama called me so I can my beeper blew up.
Fashion, all kinds of things were affected by that.
But it's good. It's good. It's good food for thought. It's a really good thing, and I think Curtis is doing a great job on it. And I just think it's going to go on for a while, and if nobody else start talking on it, we're going to kind of talk about it. We're going to ask everybody a question. But I have enjoyed you being on here. You got anything else? Got any? I hope you got some out of that. Maybe got some kind of.
No, any conversation about mental health and moving forward is always fruitful. I'm always willing to be a part of that. Period. Everybody knows me by my smile, but my smile is genuine now. So I'm gonna try to let people know how they can make theirs genuine too. So I appreciate you having me on the show.
Yes, I enjoyed you today. So yeah, so maybe we come back another time and come talk to.
Oh, for sure.
Enjoy it, Carra. We really have. Yeah, you're a very interesting lady, delightful to talk to.
We have to get some topics because we just talking like we cousins on.
Yeah, but I like that though. And I like hitting on everything because what happened is sometimes everybody doesn't talk about all those things, but it's a circle. You know what I'm saying? Mental health and addiction and couples, they all kind of coincide in different ways. So you can be on different ones, but a meal is like, the reason I was telling you about it, I call it the meal, you share different courses.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So we got a course of mental health, we got a course of marriage. And what happens, you come in and eat whatever part you want to eat it. You know what I'm saying? They're going to cut it up and they can come and eat wherever they want.
Well, I'm coming. Obviously, it look like I'm going to eat whatever part I want. So, why not have it all?
Yeah, give me the white meat. That's all I want.
As long as it's tender, I'm all right.
That's the only one that tastes good to me. But anyway, thank y'all so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for Carra. And we're out. We're gonna talk again on next time. We'll see y'all next time, guys. All right.
All right, and we are out of here. Hey, I do want to say what Carra you was talking about, whatever the new sexual thing is y'all doing, trying to get to know people emotionally. I like that.
What about intimacy versus sex? Yeah,
I like that.
I think that I used to talk about that all the time when I was
All right.